Hey everyone, how's it going? Today I want to make sure that you know how to destroy champions that appear in harder content and endgame. Let's just jump right into it. So the first thing that I wanted you to take notice of, something that took me way too long to understand, is that these icons here are very important. So basically these three icons are the different types of champion varieties that you're going to come across. The first one is barrier champions, unstoppable champions, and overload champions. So let's just go over these briefly. Barrier champions have nearly unbreakable shields that activate when they take damage. So here we'll see the different types of effects that can cause barrier champions to lower their shields or for them to be stunned. And the reason why you want to do that is so you can stop them from regenerating their health. So as you can see here, as far as effects, we have solar radiant effects, unraveling weapon rounds, volatile weapon rounds, gear with pierce traits, or additional artifact perk effects. But at the very bottom there, you see anti-barrier pulse rifle. So I'll get to that in a minute. Just take note of that for now. Okay, so next we have unstoppable. And here we have arc blind effects, solar ignition effects, stasis shatter effects, strand suspend effects, gear with unstoppable traits, or additional artifact perk effects. And here at the bottom, we're currently using unstoppable sidearm. Okay, the last category is going to be overload champions, and they are affected by arc jolt effects, stasis slow effects, void suppression effects, gear with overload traits, or additional artifact perks. And currently we have overload hand cannon. So keep these symbols in mind: this triangle for barrier, this square for unstoppable, and then this circle for overload, because these are going to come up when we get to the artifact perks. So let's just jump into that right now. You still got those icons in mind? Okay, good, because look at this. First icon right here is a triangle. Your equipped pulse rifles fire shield-piercing rounds and stun barrier champions. Now here at the bottom there's another triangle. Submachine guns you are wielding fire shield-piercing rounds and stun barrier champions. Alright, our square icon for unstoppable champions right here. Aiming down the sights of a sidearm for a short time loads a powerful explosive payload that stuns unshielded combatants. Strong against unstoppable champions. Okay, another one here. Aiming down the sights of a scout rifle for a short time loads a powerful explosive payload that stuns unshielded combatants. Strong against unstoppable champions. Alright, and then we have our circular icon here for overload. Landing consecutive hits with any hand cannon you are wielding disrupts combatants, stunning them, delaying ability energy regeneration, and lowering combatant damage output. Strong against overload champions. So here on the third column we have another artifact perk that affects overload champions. Overload sword. Landing consecutive hits with the sword you are wielding disrupts combatants, stunning them, delaying ability energy regeneration, and lowering combatant damage output. Strong against overload champions. So remember I said that this circular icon on the character screen is a little bit deceiving because we currently have overload sword artifact perk enabled. And we have a sword here, right? So we do have ways to take on overload champions, even though this isn't lit up, as long as you have the correct artifact perk selected. So just as a general rule of thumb, any of these weapon types that are able to take on champions are going to be particularly strong this season. So for example, you don't see rocket launchers or bows or glaives on here. So those weapons are going to feel a little bit weaker, at least in PvE modes. And the last thing that I wanted to mention about the seasonal artifact is that this right here, Radiant Orbs, while you have a Solar or Prismatic Subclass equipped, picking up an Orb of Power makes you Radiant. So this artifact perk will make you Radiant just like the Facet of Dawn will make you Radiant for doing melee hits. So now we have two ways to become Radiant. We can either land power to melee hits, or we can just pick up Orbs of Power. And there may even be a third way to become Radiant, but I'll get to that a little bit later. So that'll do it for the artifact this season. Before we get into the next section, if you enjoy content like this, please like and subscribe. It shows me the type of content you all want to see and where I should focus my time and attention. Also leave a comment down below with your favorite ways to take on enemy champions, whether it's specific abilities, weapons, or perks. And with that, let's get back to the video. I touched on this earlier when I was talking about the sword, but one thing I really wanted to point out is the fact that these icons will light up when you have methods to stop enemy champions. So for example, here at the bottom, it says anti-barrier pulse rifle. So if I was to equip a pulse rifle, it doesn't really matter what it is, I'll just put this one on. You can see that the icon has lit up, which means I'm currently using a weapon that can break their shield and stun them. So let's do another one. Unstoppable Sidearm at the bottom there. So let's go ahead and put on the Sidearm, the call. Okay, now you see that the icon is lit up. Okay, so if we wanted to make this one light up, we would need a Overload Hand Cannon. So let's just go ahead and put one on, doesn't really matter. And there you go. So keep in mind that you can always look at these to make sure that they're lit up. That way you know that you're ready to take on champions if you're going to something like a Nightfall or GM Strike or something like that. So in general, your armor mods are not going to be able to enhance your ability to take on champions. However, because of the Radiant Orbs artifact perk, you are able to take mods such as Heavy-Handed. Your powered melee final blows create Orbs of Power, because now by creating your Orbs of Power, you make yourself Radiant. So I'll let you decide for yourself, but obviously you make Orbs of Power by getting melee final blows. At the same time, if you land powered melee hits, you also become Radiant, or just picking up orbs from any source will make you Radiant. So there seems to be quite a bit of overlap between those three methods, so it might be overkill, but I'll let you decide if you don't want to take Radiant Orbs and you want a different artifact perk, or if you want to change your facet and not necessarily take Facet of Dawn, or maybe you don't want to take Heavy-Handed and you want to go with something having to do with your grenade ability. But I just wanted to make you aware of those interactions, that way you can decide what's best for your own build. Now there are tons of different exotic weapons and armor that will let you take on enemy champions, and there's no way I can cover all of those today, so let me just show you an example of one that I have here. If you take Second Chance, you gain a second charge of your shield throw melee. Your shield throw melee now weakens targets and becomes shield piercing, stunning barrier champions. When you stun a barrier champion with your shield throw melee, you regain a melee charge. So this armor perk here is very strong against melee champions because you basically get 2 chances to throw a shield at them and stun them, and if you manage to do it, you regain your melee charge back. That's just one example of an exotic that can let you take on champions. Okay, so there's a ton of ways that we can fight champions through our Prismatic Subclass. So let's dive into there and take a look real quick. The first thing is our Electrified Snare. So this is your grenade when you're in Transcendence. Throw an explosive device energized with Strand Matter and Arc Energy that detonates in a supercharged suspending burst. The suspended target takes heavy damage over time and chains jolting lightning to any nearby targets. So we can see here just to the left, the enemies will become jolted. Jolt damage causes overload champions to be stunned, and they'll also be suspended. Unstoppable champions are stunned. So this grenade right here, when we're in Transcendence, lets us jolt overload champions, and it lets us stun unstoppable champions. So that's a 2-for-1 effect here just from our grenades. As far as our melees, there's only one that's going to affect champions, and that's Hammer Strike. So let's read through it real quick. After sprinting for a short time, use this melee ability to swing a blazing hammer that scorches your target and deals damage in a cone behind them. If your target is defeated by Hammer Strike, they ignite. So basically, we have to kill enemies with our Hammer Strike, and then they will explode and ignite enemies around them. It's those ignitions that are going to stun unstoppable champions. Okay, so basically we have 3 grenade types that can affect enemy champions. The first one being Suppressor Grenade. So this one will let us stun overload champions. Okay, the second one is going to be Shackle Grenade. This one will let us stun unstoppable champions as well. And then we have Thermite Grenade. So this one gives us the possibility to ignite unstoppable champions. Okay, the way this works is that the grenade will scorch enemies, and if those enemies die, then they'll release the ignition that will stun unstoppable champions. So once again, your options here are going to be Suppressor Grenade, Shackle Grenade, or Thermite Grenade. Same thing here for Consecration. This also gives us the ignition effect. So Consecration is slightly different from Hammer Strike because here we had to kill enemies in order for ignition to go off. Here, if you look at the bottom of the ability itself on the second paragraph, we see while airborne, activate your charged melee again to slam to the ground and create a second larger wave of damaging solar energy. If the wave hits a scorched target, they ignite. So you need the second part of this ability to hit an enemy that's already scorched, and that'll cause the ignition and stun unstoppable champions. Okay, Diamond Lance. If you look to the right, so this gives us the shatter effect, which causes unstoppable champions to be stunned. So first you have to freeze an enemy with the Diamond Lance and then kill them so that their shatter damage can hit the champion nearby and cause them to be stunned. Okay, here, this aspect, Drangor's Lash. So by activating our barricade, we can unleash Strand Matter in order to stun unstoppable champions. So that's going to do it for aspects. Okay, so let's touch on the fragments now, of which there are 3 that will let you take on enemy champions. Okay, so the first fragment here is going to be Facet of Dominance. Your Void Grenades weaken targets, and your Arc Grenades jolt targets. So here, Jolt is letting us stun Overload champions, and this is pretty strong because you may not have noticed, but so far, the only things that we have that can affect Overload champions, which is that circular icon there to the left, is this right here, Jolt, and the other one is Suppression. Alright, the second fragment is Facet of Bravery. Defeating targets with grenade final blows grants volatile rounds to your void weapons. Defeating targets with powered melee final blows grants unraveling rounds to your strand weapons. So if you kill enemies with grenades, or if you kill them with powered melees, you're empowering your weapons to take on enemy champions. Volatile rounds from your void weapons pierce the shields of barrier champions and stun them. Unraveling rounds from your strand weapons pierce the shields of barrier champions and stun them. So this gives you 2 options. You can take void weapons or strand weapons that will synergize with this Facet of Bravery. Alright, and the third one is Facet of Dawn. Powered melee hits against targets makes you radiant. Powered melee final blows make you and nearby allies radiant. So when you're radiant, your weapons pierce the shields of barrier champions and stun them. This is really good because all you need is a powered melee hit, and then it doesn't matter what type of weapon you're using, because Radiant will make all of your weapons pierce the shields of barrier champions and stun them. Alright, so that wraps up the fragments. Alright, so what we can do here is just jump into this week's Nightfall, which is going to be the Cosmodrome. And if we look here, it shows us that we'll be taking on barrier and unstoppable champions. So the way we can take on our barrier champions is going to be through our pulse rifle here, and the way to take on unstoppable champions will be through our sidearm. So keep that in mind. We can use those 2 methods right there. We also got our handy icons here to show us the exact same thing. We can also use our consecration to possibly ignite unstoppable champions and stop them that way. Or we can shatter them through Diamond Lance. We can get volatile and unravel rounds through killing enemies with our grenades. Or we can use Radiance to pierce barrier champions. Okay, so we'll take these little ads out real quick. Once we get to that servitor that's barriered right there, we can use our pulse rifle on that to stop it from regenerating. See that barrier? We just popped it right now, and then we just kill it before it gets a chance to put the barrier back up. Alright, I'm switching to another Nightfall here where my character actually got the mechanics instead of my teammates doing it. Okay, let's force it to regen, and then we'll pop its shield with our pulse rifle here. Just like that. And just finish it off. Just want to make sure we keep enough ammo so that when it starts regenning, we can stop it. So let's deal some damage to it first. Force it to start regenning. Okay, and then we'll pop the shield. There it is. Barrier champion. Let's see if he's gonna regen. Alright, we'll stop it just like that. There you go. So I believe just past this part there'll be an unstoppable ogre that we gotta take on. Oh, I gotta bury your champ. Okay. Luckily, one of my teammates was able to stop the regen on that one. Trying to kill the witches in the back. Okay. So right here, we can just load our sidearm. There we go, and then we stunned it. Oops, I wanted to get a little bit closer, but like I was in my way. Alright, and then we kill, or not kill, but we'll make her retreat. Might have to shoot the knight up there, stops being a pain in the butt. Okay. Barrier, we're radiant, so we can use any weapon right now, it doesn't really matter. So there's no more champions from this point on, but I just wanted to show the rest of the Nightfall. That way you see it from the beginning to the end. Okay, now we're at the boss. Whoa. Oh, jeez. Unstoppable, so we just aim down the sights. Someone already stunned it. I want to say thank you very much if you watched all the way till the end. Please leave a comment below if you have any questions about taking on enemy champions, or if you have any tips for people that are a little bit less experienced or newer at the game specific to this topic. But for now, take care, and I will see you all next time.